Hello there, my creative garden artists and earth-loving friends. If you're anything like me, you've looked at something heading to the trash and felt that spark of possibility, wondering what masterpiece might be hiding inside what others see as waste. You know, there's something deeply satisfying about transforming the forgotten and discarded into something that stops people in their tracks with wonder. Welcome to Golden Seniors Living, where we believe the most stunning garden art comes not from expensive stores, but from the creativity that flows through hands that have lived, loved, and learned to see beauty everywhere. Today I'm sharing 20 incredible trash-to-treasure sculptures that will turn your garden into an outdoor art gallery that neighbors will talk about for years to come, and wait until you see what we create with item number 15. It involves old bicycle wheels and will absolutely take your breath away. Here we transform yesterday's trash into today's treasures, proving that the most magnificent art often comes from the most unexpected places. If you love creating garden magic that celebrates both creativity and conservation, gently tap that subscribe button. We've got a gallery full of inspiring projects waiting to bloom in your garden. Let's start with something that makes everyone smile. Those old rubber tires sitting in your garage or headed to the landfill? They're about to become whimsical garden creatures that bring joy to every corner of your outdoor space. Start with one large tire for the body, then stack a smaller tire on top for the head. Fill both with potting soil and plant the body with bright, spiky plants like ornamental grasses or colorful coleus for texture. The head can hold cheerful flowers like marigolds or petunias. Add googly eyes made from old bowling balls painted white with black centers, or use large plastic lids painted to look like eyes. Create legs from smaller tires or even old rain boots filled with concrete for stability. Position your tire creature near your entrance, where visitors can't help but smile as they arrive. These sculptures bring such personality to any garden space, and the best part is that each one can have its own unique character. Sometimes the most joyful art comes from the simplest materials. Here's a sculpture that turns your old kitchen colander into garden magic. That metal colander with holes that's seen better days. It's about to become a stunning sculptural planter that looks like it came from an expensive garden center. Spray paint it in metallic bronze or verdigris green for an aged copper look, then mount it on a tall metal pole or old lamppost. Fill it with cascading plants like trailing petunias, ivy, or sweet potato vine that will spill through the holes and create a living waterfall effect. The perforated design creates the most beautiful shadow patterns on the ground below, especially when the afternoon sun filters through. You can create a whole series of these at different heights throughout your garden for a cohesive artistic theme. Position them where the morning light can highlight the sculptural form and the afternoon sun can showcase those gorgeous shadow patterns. What once strained vegetables now strain sunlight into pure artistry. Those old metal lawn chair frames that have lost their fabric. Don't let them rust away in storage. These vintage frames are about to become stunning topiary sculptures that add elegance and whimsy to any garden space. Remove any remaining fabric and clean the frame thoroughly. Then spray paint in a color that complements your garden's classic black for elegance, or bright colors for playful charm. Train climbing vines like morning glories, clematis, or sweet peas to grow up and over the frame, creating a living chair sculpture. For faster results, you can also attach chicken wire to the frame and stuff it with moss, then plant it with small trailing plants that will eventually cover the entire structure. Place these living chair sculptures along garden paths or create a conversation area with several grouped together. Imagine the delight of guests discovering what appears to be furniture growing right out of your garden. Every garden needs seating, even if it's just for the imagination. Here's where old bicycle wheels become pure garden poetry. Gather several wheels of different sizes. You can often find these at yard sales or ask at bicycle repair shops for damaged wheels. They're discarding. Paint them in coordinating colors or leave them weathered for rustic charm, then mount them at various heights on metal poles or wooden posts throughout your garden. Thread climbing plants like sweet peas, beans, or small gourds through the spokes, creating living mandalas that change with the seasons. As the plants grow and wind through the spokes, they create the most intricate patterns that seem to spin with life even when there's no breeze. The circular forms provide perfect structure for round gardens or to break up long straight lines in your landscape design. In winter, when the plants have died back, the wheel sculptures maintain interest with their geometric beauty, and you can even weave battery-powered LED lights through the spokes for magical evening displays. Sometimes the most beautiful art is the kind that grows and changes with time. Those plastic milk jugs you're recycling, they're about to become an enchanting wind sculpture that dances with every breeze. Cut the jugs into long spiral strips, starting about 2 inches from the bottom, and cutting around and around until you reach the neck. Leave the handle intact as this becomes your hanging point. The key is making smooth, continuous cuts so the strips flow naturally. Once cut, gently stretch and shape the spirals, then hang them from tree branches, shepherd's hooks, or pergola beams at varying heights. When the wind catches them, they create the most mesmerizing dance of movement and shadow. For added beauty, you can paint them with translucent glass paint in soft blues and greens, so they catch and filter light like stained glass. Group several together for maximum impact, and position them where they'll catch both morning light and afternoon breezes. These sculptures bring movement and life to your garden even on the stillest days, and the gentle motion is incredibly soothing to watch. Movement in the garden feeds the soul. Old wooden ladders that are no longer safe for climbing. They're perfect for creating vertical garden sculptures that add height and drama to any landscape. Stand the ladder in your garden and train climbing roses, jasmine, or grapevines to ascend the rungs, creating a living sculpture that changes dramatically through the seasons. You can also attach old window boxes or tin cans to each rung to create a tiered garden display. For a more artistic approach, weave battery-powered string lights through the rungs, and add hanging mason jars with solar lights inside for evening magic. The latter can serve as a backdrop for shorter plants or stand alone as a statement piece. Position it where it can be viewed from multiple angles, and consider painting it in a color that either blends with your garden or creates a bold contrast. The vertical lines draw the eye upward and make your garden feel larger and more dynamic. Every garden benefits from elements that reach toward the sky. Here's something that turns ordinary tin cans into extraordinary garden art. Collect various sizes of tin cans, remove all labels, and clean thoroughly. Using a hammer and different sized nails, punch patterns of holes around each can. Stars, flowers, geometric designs, or even spell out words. The magic happens when you mount these on metal stakes at different heights throughout your garden, and place solar lights or battery-powered LED lights inside each can. As evening falls, your garden transforms into a constellation of light patterns dancing across your plants and pathways. During the day, they create interesting shadow patterns, and the punched metal adds industrial texture to softer garden elements. You can paint them in metallic finishes for sophistication or bright colors for whimsy. Group them in odd numbers for the most pleasing visual effect, and vary the heights to create rhythm throughout your space. Light has the power to transform any garden into pure magic. Those old metal buckets with holes in the bottom, they're actually perfect for creating stunning sculptural planters that look intentionally artistic. The existing holes provide built-in drainage, and the weathered patina tells a story of useful life. Mount them on posts at varying heights to create a village of container gardens, or group them on the ground for a more intimate display. Plant them with architectural plants like ornamental grasses, spiky agaves, or dramatic elephant ears that complement the industrial feel of the metal. For a softer look, try cascading plants that spill over the edges and soften the hard lines. The contrast between the utilitarian bucket and the organic plants creates visual tension that's incredibly appealing. Position them where they can catch rain naturally, and the plants will thrive with minimal care. Sometimes the most beautiful containers are the ones that show their age and history. Old concrete blocks destined for the construction dumpster, they're about to become the foundation for a stunning geometric garden sculpture. Stack and arrange the blocks to create interesting architectural forms, steps, platforms, or even abstract towers. The key is playing with positive and negative space, using the hollow centers of the blocks as planters, while the solid forms create sculptural mass. Fill some openings with trailing plants, others with upright specimens, and leave some empty for pure geometric impact. You can paint the blocks in bold colors for modern appeal, or leave them natural for industrial chic. These sculptures work especially well in contemporary garden settings, and provide excellent contrast to softer flowing plant forms. The weight and permanence of concrete adds gravitas to your garden design, while the modular nature allows you to reconfigure the sculpture as your tastes evolve. Strength and beauty often go hand in hand. Here's where broken concrete and old mirrors create something truly magical. Gather pieces of broken concrete, old bricks, and any cracked mirrors or mirror tiles you can find. Create a mosaic sculpture by cementing these materials together in flowing, organic forms. The mirrors catch and reflect light throughout the day, creating sparkles and flashes that bring your garden to life. Build abstract forms, spiraling columns, or even functional pieces like garden stools or small tables. The contrast between the rough concrete and sparkling mirror creates incredible visual interest, and the play of light changes throughout the day as the sun moves across your garden. These sculptures work especially well near water features, where the reflections multiply the light effects. Safety tip: smooth any sharp mirror edges with fine sandpaper before assembling. Every garden needs elements that capture and celebrate light. Those old metal bed frames, headed to the scrapyard, they're about to become stunning garden trellises that look like oversized jewelry in your landscape. The ornate headboards and footboards of vintage metal beds make incredible supports for climbing plants, while serving as sculptural elements even when the plants are dormant. Position them strategically throughout your garden as room dividers, backdrops for flower beds, or standalone art pieces. Train climbing roses, clematis, or morning glories to ascend the decorative metalwork, creating living tapestries that change with the seasons. For winter interest, weave evergreen garland through the metal patterns or add battery-powered lights for holiday magic. The curves and scrollwork of vintage bed frames add romanticism to any garden setting, and their substantial size creates instant impact. Sometimes the most elegant garden art comes from the most unexpected sources. Broken garden tools with damaged handles. Don't discard them yet. These weathered implements are about to become a charming garden sculpture that celebrates the tools that have served you well over the years. Arrange old shovels, rakes, hoes, and hand tools in a fan pattern against a fence or garden shed wall, securing them with sturdy brackets. Add some climbing vines, weaving through the handles, and perhaps a small shelf made from reclaimed wood to hold a collection of vintage clay pots. This creates a functional art piece that honors the history of garden work while providing structure for plants. You can paint the handles in coordinating colors or leave them naturally weathered for authentic charm. Position this sculpture near your potting area or tool shed, where it makes practical sense while adding visual interest. Every garden should honor the tools that help it grow. Here's where old rain gutters become flowing water sculptures that bring tranquility to any garden space. Cut sections of damaged gutters into varying lengths, then mount them at different angles on posts or attach them to fence lines to create a series of water channels. Connect them with flexible tubing to a small recirculating pump, and you have a stunning water feature that looks like modern art. The gentle sound of water flowing from level to level creates a peaceful soundtrack for your garden activities. Plant water-loving plants, like ferns and hostas around the base, to complete the naturalistic look. You can paint the gutters in colors that complement your garden scheme, or leave them galvanized for industrial appeal. Linear forms provide excellent contrast to the curved shapes of most plants, and the movement of water adds life and energy to your outdoor space. Water features feed both the plants and the soul, Those old wheelbarrows that have served their purpose. Transform them into spectacular sculptural planters that become the centerpiece of any garden area. The key is thinking beyond traditional planting and using the wheelbarrow's form as part of the artistic statement. Tip it at an angle and secure it in place, then plant it so flowers and plants appear to be spilling out like a cornucopia of garden abundance. You can also mount it vertically against a wall as a dramatic wall planter, or use it as the base for a tiered fountain by adding pumps and additional levels. Paint it in bold colors for contemporary appeal, or let it weather naturally for rustic charm. The movement implied by the wheelbarrow's design adds dynamism to your garden even when it's stationary. Position it where it can be viewed from multiple angles and where the spilling plants have room to flow naturally. Sometimes the most effective art is the kind that tells a story. Old chain link fence sections, destined for removal. They're perfect for creating vertical garden sculptures that serve as both art and function. Stand sections of fencing as screens or room dividers in your garden, then use them as supports for climbing plants or hanging planters. You can also cut artistic shapes out of the fencing to create interesting silhouettes, or weave colorful materials through the links to create patterns and textures. For a more refined look, paint the fencing black to create elegant backdrops that make colorful plants pop forward visually. These sculptures work especially well in urban gardens, where the industrial aesthetic feels appropriate, and they provide instant structure for new garden areas. The grid pattern creates interesting shadows and provides perfect support for lightweight hanging elements like wind chimes or plant containers. Sometimes the most utilitarian materials make the most striking art. Discarded concrete planters with cracks too large for planting. They're about to become stunning sculptural elements that add architectural interest to your garden. Instead of trying to repair them for planting, embrace their brokenness and use them as pure sculptural forms. Stack them at interesting angles, nestle them among plants as focal points, or use them as bases for other sculptural elements. The weathered concrete and interesting crack patterns create natural patina that expensive garden art tries to imitate. You can enhance them with moss by brushing on a mixture of buttermilk and moss to encourage natural growth in the cracks. Position them where they create visual weight and balance in your garden design, and use plants around them to soften their hard edges while highlighting their sculptural qualities. These pieces work especially well in meditation gardens or quiet corners, where their permanence and solidity provide a sense of grounding. Beauty can be found in decay and imperfection. Here's where old metal garden gates become stunning standalone sculptures that create focal points and frame garden views. Even if the gate no longer functions properly or doesn't fit any current opening, it can serve as pure architectural art in your landscape. Position ornate iron gates as backdrops for flower beds. Use them to create the illusion of garden rooms, or mount them on posts as freestanding sculptures that frame beautiful views. You can train climbing vines to weave through the ironwork, creating living art that changes with the seasons. For evening drama, add up lighting to highlight the gate's silhouette against the night sky. The curves and patterns of vintage gates add romance and history to any garden setting, and their substantial presence commands attention without overwhelming smaller plants. Sometimes the most effective garden art is the kind that invites you to imagine what lies beyond. Those broken ceramic pots that are too damaged for planting. Gather them up because they're about to become stunning mosaic sculptures that celebrate the beauty of imperfection. Break them further into manageable pieces, keeping the colors and patterns that appeal to you. Use these shards to create mosaic art on plain concrete forms, old tree stumps, or even large rocks in your garden. The varied textures and colors of broken pottery create incredibly rich surfaces that change appearance throughout the day as light hits them from different angles. You can create abstract patterns or representational designs like flowers, birds, or geometric motifs. Seal the finished mosaics with weather-resistant grout and sealant so they'll withstand seasons of weather. These sculptures work beautifully as stepping stones, garden borders, or standalone art pieces positioned where they catch the light. The Japanese concept of wabi-sabi teaches us that broken things can be more beautiful than perfect ones. Old metal watering cans that leak too much for practical use. They're perfect for creating charming sculptural displays that celebrate the romance of garden work. Group several different sizes and styles together, fill them with seasonal flowers, and arrange them at varying heights throughout your garden. The patina and wear marks tell stories of gardens past, and their familiar forms evoke nostalgic feelings about traditional gardening. You can also mount them on walls as sculptural planters, or tip them at angles with flowers spilling out as if they're actively watering the garden. For winter interest, fill them with evergreen boughs and battery lights, or use them to hold collections of interesting branches and dried seed pods. The spouts and handles create interesting lines and curves that add visual movement to your garden design. These sculptures bridge the gap between functional and decorative, honoring the tools while celebrating their beauty. Finally, here's where old plastic lawn furniture that's cracked and faded becomes surprisingly elegant garden sculpture. Instead of discarding those weathered plastic chairs and tables, transform them into planters that make bold artistic statements. Cut strategic openings in the seats and backs of chairs to create unique planting opportunities. Imagine cascading flowers flowing from a chair seat or trailing vines emerging from the backrest. Stack damaged pieces at interesting angles to create abstract sculptural forms, or paint them in bold artistic colors that transform their humble origins into contemporary art. The contrast between the artificial material and living plants creates visual tension that's incredibly appealing in modern garden design. Position these transformed pieces where they create conversation and surprise, proving that art can come from the most unexpected sources. Sometimes the most profound transformations happen when we see past an object's original purpose to its sculptural potential. From rubber tires to plastic furniture, we've discovered that garden sculpture isn't about expensive materials or formal training. It's about seeing possibility where others see waste. You know, creating art for our gardens in our golden years isn't just about saving money or recycling, though those are wonderful benefits. It's about proving that creativity has no expiration date, and that the most meaningful art comes from our own hands and imagination. Because every sculpture we create from discarded materials whispers a powerful truth. There's always beauty waiting to be discovered, if we just have the vision to see it and the courage to create it. If even one of these ideas sparked your artistic imagination, would you give us a gentle thumbs up? I'd love to know in the comments, which sculpture idea are you most excited to try? Or even better, what piece of trash are you now looking at with completely new eyes? And don't forget to subscribe to Golden Seniors Living, because your most creative and expressive years are still ahead of you, and we're here to help them flourish. Until next time, keep seeing sculptures hiding in the ordinary, and remember, the most valuable art is often made from the things others have overlooked.